Every day, we are told, you need this. I love it. Turn my computer on, log on to the internet. Next thing I know, there's ad after ad after ad of telling me, I need this product in order to survive. I need this product in order to thrive. Oh, by the way, hey, listen, you need this if you're going to be happy. Now, I love this next thing. You're going to need this pill, this potion, this lotion if you're going to be healthy. Now, maybe some of you out there have experienced the same thing. You're wondering, it's like, oh my goodness, this artificial intelligence is learning every time I say something that this is the next ad I'm going to see, prompting me to have a desire or to have that idea that I need something as to create that most important thing that I want. Well, here's the thing. Tonight, we're going to remove a lot of that garbage. And I mean garbage. It's stinking thinking. We're going to be talking about really what is the most important thing for your body. See, the sad thing is that, when we're marketed to, when we're advertised to, we're told these are the important things. But it's not based upon fact. And it's not based upon truth. And when I ask you this very simple question of, what is the most important thing for your body, we're going to use that gauge of what is going to bring you to a state of demise the quickest if you don't have it. Now listen, many of you in the next 20 minutes are going to learn some things that you probably didn't know about really what's most important. Some of you are going to learn some things that you're probably going to want to start doing because of the conversation tonight. Or share with other people because of the conversation tonight. I want to hear from you. I want to hear, what are those takeaways? What are those things that you're learning that are important, that you're going to start doing, that you're going to start focusing on because of our conversation this evening? See, and I said share just a second ago because I realized that in the next 20 minutes, we could say, hey, listen, this was great information. I learned a lot. I was able to improve myself. But in the end, I realized we're not here for ourselves. We're here in order to help our fellow man too. And if we have a gift and we have knowledge and we only keep it to ourselves, then shame on us when we know that it could help and benefit somebody else. So I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. I ask you to like these videos because it helps to make sure that in the grand scheme of things, this information gets shared on the internet even more, on Facebook even more. I ask you to leave me your comment because I want to hear what are those things that strike you and that you're working on, because when you reply, hey, listen, I am the person who sends you that message back. And the last thing is to share. Is to share the information, to plant the seed of hope for somebody else in your community and in your family so that possibly they don't make mistakes that cost them their lives. And yes, I said it that easy and that simply, cost them their lives. We constantly talk about it. We constantly hear these examples in our office of how these things happen, not, in somebody else's backyard, but right in our backyard. Every single month, these things happen. And I dare say, don't want to neglect the fact that it's our responsibility to help share and hopefully save somebody from being part of that. So listen, the very first thing on this list of important things happens to be food. Food's really important. Hey, listen, I do it at least 2, 3, 4 times a day. Consume food. We have a piece of machinery. It's called our body, and let me tell you, it requires nutrients, minerals, food. In fact, we have been so lied to by the FDA, by the different organizations that control our food and what is good and better choices. So let me do this. I wanted you to think about our workshop last week, The Breakfast with Baker, because we covered some of this very first information on the fact that we need well-rounded meals. Proteins, fats, carbohydrates. Yes, fats have been vilified. Carbohydrates, oh my goodness, you may as well just slap it on the side of your waist or on your thighs, right? Well, let me tell you, our body requires all of these things, and they all serve different purposes. There is a purpose behind each one of those things, and if we neglect feeding this system of ours, sooner or later, this system is going to go out of balance. When things are out of balance, they don't run or work properly. See, sadly, like I said, we've been told, hey, listen, you know what? Fat's bad. Fats are bad for you. Stop eating fats. Your brain is 85% fat and water. If we're not consuming fats, that resource that runs our brain, that helps to replenish those tissues, it's not there. Is there any reason why we can't draw some very, very, easy correlations between that and some of the really big metabolic problems that we're seeing? Some of the brain function problems that we're seeing, the ADHD, the Alzheimer's, the dementia issues. I know what the research says. In fact, I know what the research tells us in regards to outcome studies for ADHD and how, just simply adding omega-3 fatty acids back into a child's diet allows for their brain to function better, and how ADHD, that attention deficit hyperactivity syndrome, goes away. Adding good fats, removing bad fats, the trans fats, affects that brain function. So listen, maybe your big takeaway tonight is, hey, listen, I need to consider some of the things that I'm consuming and feeding and putting into my body. Now you're going to notice on this diagram here, just a second ago, food is all the way at the bottom of this pyramid. We're going to work our way up this pyramid. In fact, the reason why food is all the way at the bottom of, listen, you could go weeks and months without actually consuming solid foods, and you could survive. But for those of you out there who have never seen this vital needs triangle, let's think about this. We can only go a few days without consuming water. Remember how I said your brain, 85% fat and water. Well, let me tell you, water has a huge part to play in every metabolic function in your body. In fact, you know what? We realize that water is used in every single cell in your body. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever been on YouTube and you've ever, done something like searched up and looked up, things like, let me think, athletes that are dehydrated. And watched as these professional athletes who have spent not years, not months, but decades of their life building their body up physically to be capable of performing triathlons and, endurance races and marathons and different events. And look at what happens to that finely tuned body if, in fact, they're not consuming enough water. They're staggering back and forth. They can't walk a straight line. When you hear the recordings, they can't form words. They can't make sounds because of how their body is affected. Organ systems just simply shut down because of it. And I know there's people out there that'll tell you, water's overrated. You really don't need to drink water. You can drink milk and iced tea and vodka and soda. You just need some monster drinks, right? Once you can take a shower in it, it's not water. Because everything else has chemicals in it. Everything else has to be filtered. Everything else has to be cleaned up in order to get to the point where the body's actually able to use this H2O inside of all those cells, inside of all those different systems. And the problem is that by that point, let me think, it's all the way out of your body. You're not capable of using it for the way it was intended to be used. So when we talk about, we look at, all the different ways that, our body uses it, it regulates our temperature, it helps with metabolism, it helps to make sure that we're moving foods through our system, it makes sure that we're going to the bathroom and getting rid of toxins that aren't supposed to be there. It does all of these things. And yet, if we're not consuming enough of it, we're not giving this machine of ours what it needs in order to function properly. I love the fact that, when we look at the quantity, it's quite simple. We're not going to overcomplicate this. Take your body weight. You write the number down. Take that total body weight that you have, divide it in half. That's about how many ounces you should be consuming. Now, before we get all, beside ourselves, let's just understand something, that it's a big number. Most of you are looking at that number and saying, oh my goodness, I'm never going to leave the bathroom. Well, let me tell you, you're going to have a really tough time, first off, if you're not used to this, getting even close to that number. It's going to be like exercising. You are going to literally have to build yourself up to be able to consume that much water throughout the course of the day. And yes, a really good thing is when you put water in, water's coming out. Now the positive effect is when that water comes out, it's taking away a lot of toxins with it. It's cleaning up your system. It's getting rid of junk that's not supposed to be there. What a wonderful, great idea. Because let me tell you, I don't care who you are, whether I'm talking to you or some other patient that's here in the office, or whether I look into the mirror and look at myself. Nobody's diet is perfect. Nobody is perfect. So in turn, there's always going to be toxins. There's always going to be byproducts. There's always going to be things that have to be removed. Give your body the chance to do what it's supposed to do, to remove it the way it's supposed to. Now the next thing on that triangle happens to be oxygen. That's what that O2 stands for. So let's understand something. That bloodstream of yours, those little blood vessels, it takes a molecule of that oxygen, carries it from your system, brings it to every muscle and every tissue in your body, delivers it there, leaves it there, picks up other stuff in order to take it out of your body, get rid of those toxins. But that oxygen is super important. That's that power that you need in order for things to work the way they're supposed to. Now listen, digging around in my basement and seeing my box of scuba gear. Haven't dove in a little bit, but I can still remember all the training that went into changing out tanks when they go dry underneath, hooking up to my pony bottle, knowing that any way I cut it, if I'm underwater and I got to change out those bottles, guess what? I only got a couple minutes. Now, I'm not Houdini, so I can't hold my breath for 4 or 5 minutes. That's not who I am. So I know I got 3 minutes. And after 3 minutes not breathing, really bad stuff happens. Now, you're probably the same as me. So if we're not breathing for a couple minutes, really bad things happen to our system. See, when we look at that food that was down there, and then we look at the water and now the oxygen, we come to realize, hey, listen, you know what? It seems like stuff is becoming more and more important as we go up this triangle here. Well, you're right. It is. It's more and more important. And in the end, that most important thing happens to be our nervous system. All I can do is every time I see this triangle, remember Christopher Reeves, the old Superman. In a split second, he's up on his horse, gets hit, damages his neck, severs some of those nerves, and all of those tissues just stopped working. Everything stopped working. And it never functioned again. See, our nervous system, that very first system of our body to form, it's the most delicate system that we have. It is amazing how delicate it is. It is covered by these nice, hard bones in order to protect it. In fact, those same bones that protect it also create interference or irritation to those nerves that are supposed to conduct information, share information with all the tissues and organs in your system. See, that power that makes you is the same power that runs you, as long as it's able to communicate back and forth. And when it has that interference, that is that subluxation. The bone that's out of place puts pressure on the nerve. Whatever's connected to it can't work the way it's supposed to. We don't have to make it any more complicated than that. And in turn, as a chiropractor, that's my greatest joy, is the fact that we get to work with this nervous system to remove that interference, to make sure that your brain can communicate properly. I tell people all the time, listen, my job is easy. Find it, fix it, and leave it alone. The one thing I know is that when man gets involved in nature, really bad things happen. Bad things happen. In turn, we've seen this demonstrated out again and again and again with the body. When we start messing with different things inside the body and say, hey, listen, you know what, I think we should do this, and it'll have a better outcome than what the body does. Now, for some of you out there, you're like, I'm not sure if I follow you. For some of you, you're old enough. You can remember a whole generation of what are called thalidomide babies. See, when man thought that, hey, listen, you know, this process of pregnancy and developing this fetus, you know, taking 2 cells and, you know, in forming, you know, 1 trillion cells in 9 months period of time, we could do it better than nature. We can do it better. In fact, all you got to do is take this pill, and you know what? Listen, this pill is going to help you hold your pregnancy, so you know what? You're going to be able to go to term more easily because you're doing this. The reality is that process, and if you've never heard of that, look it up. That process led to children being born without arms and without legs, children dying in utero, just absolutely horrible outcomes. I recognize that this nervous system of ours, it is an amazing, amazing piece of equipment inside of our body. Our job is to help it just simply be able to share the information the way it's supposed to. So when we look at this, we recognize food is really important. We can last a couple weeks. Water, well, that's even higher up on the list. We can only go for 3 or 4 days without water. Oxygen, well, getting closer to the top, 3 to 4 minutes without breathing is going to do you in. And finally, that nervous system. In a blink of an eye, it stops working the way it's supposed to. So for many of you, it answers the question, what is the most important thing for your body? All that organic food is great. Drinking that Kangen water, that filtered water, that is wonderful. Making sure that you're going to the gym and you're exercising, moving that body of yours, absolutely important. But it pales in comparison to a properly functioning nervous system. See, in the end, there's so many individuals that think, well, as long as I eat properly, I'm healthy. As long as I drink enough water, I'm going to be good. As long as I get to the gym and I lift weights and I work out every single day and I grow strong muscles, I'm healthy. Not the case. I'm going to remind you of Webster's Dictionary's definition. It reminds us of the fact that it's your body working at 100%. And when in fact our nervous system isn't communicating properly, our body will never function at remotely close to 100%. See, my hope for you is that, as we share this information, we recognize the fact that in the absence of continuous transmission of nerve signals from the brain stem into the cerebrum, the brain becomes useless. In other words, without that level of proper communication, our body doesn't work the way it's supposed to. There are people out there, they don't know what you know. There are people out there that, they're in your friends group, they're in your family, they're your neighbors, they're your loved ones. They're the people that you work with. They don't know what you know about how the body functions. Some of them have been lied to. Some of them, Siri and Google and Yelp and Yahoo, have been pumping them full of misinformation about really what's the most important thing for their body. I'm going to encourage you to make sure you do the 3 things that you're supposed to do. Like this video. Leave me a comment about what your big takeaway was from this video tonight. And then finally share it. Share it with the hope that you're planting the seed for somebody else to get unstuck and not ride that journey into a state of disease and a lack of health. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center.